This is the AI Executive Brief, and I'm Stephen Forte. The AI Fluency Divide. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why two companies with identical AI tools can get completely opposite results, and what the winners are doing that the losers refuse to. There is a version of this conversation that turns into software tourism, new logo, new demo, new budget line. This is not that. I'll save you the time. It doesn't matter. What I want to talk about today is a paradox sitting in the middle of the data that should be keeping every CEO up at night. Some companies are seeing massive productivity gains from AI. Others, using the same tools, same models, same price tag, are watching their people get slower. Not slightly slower, measurably, documentably slower. Same technology, opposite outcomes, and the variable is not the software. Let me start with the numbers, because they're striking. ActivTrak just released their 2026 State of the Workplace report. 443 million hours of digital workplace activity, over 163,000 employees, 111 organizations. The headline finding 80% of employees now use AI tools. Time spent in AI tools is up 8x in 2 years. And here's the part nobody is putting on a slide deck. AI does not reduce workloads. Their words, not mine. Time spent across every work category increased. Email up 104%, chat up 145%. Focus time fell to a 3-year low. Daily focus time for AI users dropped 23 minutes. Now, if that were the whole story, you'd walk away thinking AI is a net negative. But it's not the whole story, because buried in the same data is this. The 3% of employees who spend 7 to 10% of their work hours in AI tools, not more, not less, hit 95% productivity, the highest of any usage tier, 3%, that's the number. And they're not alone. OpenAI's own enterprise report found a 6x productivity gap between the 95th percentile AI users and average employees inside the same companies. Same tools, same licenses, 6 to 1. Google and Ipsos found that only 5% of workers qualify as AI fluent, meaning they've actually reorganized how they work. That 5% is 4.5 times more likely to get promoted and 4 times more likely to report higher wages. Meanwhile, 53% of workers say they don't think AI applies to their job at all. So the question is not, does AI work? The question is, why do the same tools create overload in one company and lift in another? Here's where I want to think out loud for a moment, because I've been wrestling with this data across dozens of organizations I've worked with directly. The instinct, the CEO instinct, is to solve this with procurement. Buy the better tool, upgrade the license tier, roll out the enterprise plan, and I get it, because buying something is an action, and action feels like progress. But every piece of evidence we have says the opposite. BCG's February report puts it bluntly, their 10-20-70 rule. Only 10% of AI value comes from the algorithms, 20% from the technology platform, 70%, 70, from rethinking the people component, the workforce, the behavior, the daily habits of the person sitting at the desk. Let me say that differently, because it matters. You didn't buy a transformation, you bought a subscription. McKinsey landed on the same conclusion from a different angle. They studied companies that ran AI literacy courses, the kind where everyone watches the onboarding videos, passes the quiz, gets the certificate. Beautiful. 7 in 10 employees ignored the videos entirely. A month after the course, adoption was minimal. Workflows hadn't changed, incentives hadn't changed. People went right back to doing their jobs the way they always had, just with a new icon on their desktop they never clicked. Contrast that with companies that did something harder. They introduced AI into the actual flow of work. They trained supervisors to model adoption, not just approve it, model it. They redesigned performance metrics so that using AI well was visible and rewarded. In those companies, literacy and adoption rose together, not because the tool was better, because the organization was ready. GSK rolled out AI tools to 70,000 employees with zero internal marketing. No launch event, no branded email campaign. 52,000 people use them monthly, 74% voluntary adoption. They didn't need to be sold on the tools because the organization had already done the harder work of making the tools useful inside actual workflows. Some people were taught, most people were licensed, and this is where the seniority flip becomes the real problem. The people with the most authority to redesign work are often the least comfortable doing it. The people with the least authority are often the most comfortable experimenting. So the organization gets trapped. Forbes reported in February that junior staff are now more AI adept than senior leaders. BCG's adoption data confirms it. 85% of employees are stuck at stages 2 and 3 of AI maturity, using AI like a search engine. And the single biggest predictor of whether they advance, whether their manager uses AI daily. 88% of managers in top performing companies role model AI use every day. In lagging companies, it's 25%. When I hear executives say, our people are not adopting AI, I usually translate that as our leaders have not modeled what good AI use looks like in this company. Employees are very rational. If the boss still works the old way, if the incentives still reward the old way, and if the workflow still assumes the old way, then using AI starts to feel extracurricular. People do not transform a business through extracurricular activity. And the LSE and Protiviti data backs this up. A trained Gen X employee outperforms an untrained Gen Z employee on AI tasks. It's not generational. It's not about digital nativeness. It's about whether someone showed you what's possible and helped you rebuild your workflow. Trained employees save 11 hours a week versus 5 for the untrained. And 68% of employees received zero AI training in the last 12 months. Let me make this concrete. Picture a CEO running a $400 million professional services firm. 2 offices, same tools, same AI licenses, same budget. In one office, the managing partner, Elena, spent 3 months personally learning AI, not delegating it, learning it. Then she restructured every team's workflow around what she'd discovered: proposal drafting, client research, internal knowledge retrieval, brought people in, sat with them, showed them how AI changes their specific tasks, not in theory, in practice. In the other office, the managing partner bought the same tools, sent a company-wide email saying use AI, and went back to running the business the old way. 6 months later, Elena's office has revenue per employee up 23% and proposal cycle time down 31%. The other office is flat, and they just lost 3 of their best people to a competitor whose managing partner looks a lot like Elena. Same company, same technology, same budget. The only variable was whether leadership treated AI as a purchase order or a fundamental rethinking of how their people work. And the stakes are real. Harvard Business Review reports that job postings for automatable roles are already down 17%, while human AI collaboration roles are up 22%. Pearson estimates that pairing AI with genuine skilling could add $4.8 to $6.6 trillion to the U.S. economy by 2034. The gap between those two futures is not technology. It is training. It is leadership. It is whether someone in the corner office decided that helping people rebuild their relationship with their computer was worth their personal time. Here's your line for the next board meeting. The AI divide isn't about who has the best tools. It's about who has the best teachers. If you haven't personally sat with your team and shown them how AI changes their specific job, you haven't started your AI transformation. You've just bought software. Today, we walked through the productivity paradox, the same AI tools producing opposite results, and traced the divide back to one variable: whether leadership invested in behavior change or just bought licenses. The fluency gap, the seniority flip, the 3% sweet spot, the 10-20-70 rule, they all point the same direction. The technology works. The question is whether your organization does. That is the AI Executive Brief for Tuesday, March 31st. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, share it with a colleague. I will be back Wednesday with more. Until then, stay sharp.